getting a little late start. Are we going to what?
Are we going to keep track of our own time roughly?
Yeah, I can.
5 minutes? We all know we got 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, and if it gets agreed, just I'll let you know. Okay. Welcome to First Thursdays.
Oh, you made that.
You're here with Sustainable Tulsa. We're glad to have you.
You do too.
We want to thank our sponsors before we get started. PSO is our lead sponsor. We want to thank Cavanta, TCC Creativity Center, Mike McCann with McCann Law, and if you're here, wave. I think I saw Mike. PSO Wind Choice and Grog's Green Barn. So let's give them a round of applause for their support. They not only support Sustainable Tulsa in our work, but a lot of other community endeavors, so great community leaders in our community. Also want to give a shout out to my board members that are here, Mike Lemus and Tracy Poe, if you can give a wave. Thank you all for your leadership. And give a shout out to Joel Garza at the sign-in table. Give a wave there. He's helping us with Scorecard this summer. And Alex O'Connell, she's interning back there, gave you your lunch. So let's thank them for their time today. As a reminder, we do compost with Full Sun composting and recycling with TCC, so thank you for helping to divert your trash and waste in those different receptacles. One thing that we do, and we're going to take 1 minute, and you guys have done it really well already, but there's somebody you didn't meet, somebody that's new. And if you're a veteran to this, make a point to welcome somebody new. But take 1 minute, stand up, introduce yourself to somebody, and we'll get back together. So go. It feels like last week.
Yeah. Did they talk about
To me,
No, not really.
I know Barbara.
Most people don't.
We did talk about pollinators and the need for that. So actually, yes, we talked about how much food they help to, so.
Well, I think if there's people here, I just wanted to loop that in a little bit for people that were here last time.
There's definitely monitors out there. So, yeah.
I can come back. I could go on and on.
Oh, man. Well,
I'm going to keep that.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's
the economy.
it's interesting because they rejoice, but at the same time, Western Oklahoma, they are in the process of combining their wheat.
And they're sitting
harvesting their
table
wheat.
right here. He has a big wood here.
It lays it down, and it also adds moisture to it, and we know what moisture on wheat does.
I think the chair of the task force for One Voice in the chamber, and it's environment business. Gosh, if there's something at the state level you're really looking for, give it to me. Because I can at least have it as a conversation, and if it makes the top, then it will vote on it. So we'll give 1 more minute here. So. Okay. Thank you for being so enthusiastic about introducing yourselves. Just a couple quick announcements, and then we're going to get into this program here. Thank you all. Just a couple quick announcements, and thank you for doing that and welcoming new folks and helping to grow this community around sustainability. There are so many people out there that I've seen over the years that are instrumental in the shift and the change and the conversation around sustainability. So thank you for being here today. Just a couple announcements. We just launched out our Recharge. You'll see a couple on your table there, and it's our new fundraiser called Recharge. Will be September 14th at Kane's Ballroom. We're going to have fun. It's going to be music, food, and some other types of interactive opportunities around sustainability, people, profit, planet. And we'd love for you to join us, buy tickets, become a sponsor, volunteer, come join us and be a partner. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be the party you've been waiting for. So join us for that. Okay, and then another announcement. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram and help support us that way. Another thing is that we've got our Scorecard Program, one of our business programs you've heard us speak about over the last few years. We're just rounding out our second year of members. We have 40 companies that are participating and this year, and we'll be announcing their successes in this room August 30th, and we hope that you'll join us for that, so look for that invitation. And as a reminder, in our first year, we had 31 companies verified that almost finished 900 action items toward their triple bottom line, as well as saved collectively $1 million and united their teams. And that's pretty phenomenal, I think, in our first year. It was definitely eye-opening to our team to see the enthusiasm and the opportunity in our community. There's so much. So we hope you'll join us for that and see the successes that they're growing on for this year. Another announcement, we have a few positions that we're going to be posting in the next week, so look on our website under About Us. There's job postings, as well as we'll send an email out. So if you're interested in being a part of our team or know somebody that would like to be part of our team, do reach out. We'd like to hear from you. And before we get started with today's program, there's a gentleman, James McKendry. Are you still here? Yes, there you are. Great. Okay. He was going to tell us really quickly about an opportunity that I hope you guys will engage with. So.
Hey, thank you. I won't take up too much time. I hope some of y'all are aware that the city is currently doing a master planning effort, sort of radiating from the BOK Center. And as part of that plan, we're reaching out to the community in various ways. And next week, we have an opportunity for y'all to join us. We'll be meeting at 5:30 over at the Central City County Library. And we're going to be doing an urban hike through the area and kind of wrapping it back up over at the Aloft Hotel, at which point we'll create some documentation of our findings, and the ultimate goal is to identify impediments to non-motorized transportation and how to make the environment more conducive, sort of on a human scale, for people who aren't necessarily in a car. So there's a Facebook page, and once again, 5:30 Wednesday night, and we'll be meeting at the Central Library and heading out for a 20-minute there and 20-minute back hike. And if we get enough people, we have 3 different routes. So, it's on the city. So the city has 2 pages, web pages, which will make it even more confusing. But it's actually the Vision Tulsa, and you can find out the details there on the Vision Tulsa Facebook page. So hope to see some of these faces there. Thank you.
So we should all go. So sign up. Okay, so we have an incredible program for you. And it was actually in this room in February, part of TCC's Sustainability Conference, that I was hearing Barry and several other voices and individuals up here talking about this challenge around food and access to local foods and what some of those barriers are. And so he and I were chatting, and we heard from Nathan. He was crunching numbers for us and telling us what the opportunity is. So Barry helped me put together a panel of some of the different voices that are part of this conversation so that we can start this today. We'll actually continue it because there's so many people working on this. So who is joining us today is Barry Jarvis. He's dad, husband, video producer, publisher, scientist, cook, and all 4 of his grandparents had an active role working the land and honoring the natural rhythms of local seasonal eating. Those lessons have fueled his life passion as founder of Brother T Pictures, publisher of Edible Tulsa, and co-founder of Agruity.com, a marketplace for local foods. He holds a degree in botany and environmental science and culinary arts. Barry lives in Tulsa with his wife and 3 energetic boys. So welcome, Barry. We have Barbara Crane with us today. She's co-owner, along with her husband Ron, of Crane Dairy Wagon Creek Creamery near Helena, Oklahoma. The Cranes have been dairy farming since 1991 and have been producing the milk from their grass-fed dairy herd since 2005. They produce a variety of dairy products, including Greek yogurt, butter, and cheese. They also produce grass-fed beef, eggs, and make a variety of products on their farm commercial kitchen. The Cranes have 6 children and 4 grandchildren, and one of her children are here today, so let's give them a round of applause. Kevin Snell is chef at Amelia's and has been working in the restaurant industry for 15 years, traveling from humble beginnings, doing dishes at a fast-paced Tex-Mex restaurant, and managing Stonehorse Cafe Kitchen with Tulsa legend Tim Inman, master chef Francis Mullen, and who works only over the open flame. It's a major influence of his on Kevin, and where he draws many of his menu concepts. He owes his affinity to fresh ingredients to his father, who made it a priority to take him outdoors as much as possible, and they would go on these annual camping trips to different parts of the Rocky Mountains range, and along the way, they fished and ate their catch daily. So let's welcome Kevin. Rita Scott is the outreach coordinator for Oklahoma Farm and Food Alliance and widely regarded as a champion of the local foods movement in Oklahoma. Rita oversees the outreach and program management for the Alliance for her location in Bixby, Oklahoma. Rita has produced local foods, managed farmers markets, spearheaded the Buy Fresh, Buy Local initiative, farm to school training, and the Local Food Week, which we're in the middle of right now. So she'll tell us a little bit about that, and programming, and consulted with local food producers and stakeholders on marketing, accessibility, programming, and production and education. With a horticulture degree from TCC, Tulsa Community College, Rita has raised vegetables and livestock, provided landscape and design services, and presented at local food conferences across the nation. Let's welcome Rita. So how this is going to work, they're each going to give us about a 5-ish minute presentation, and then we'll hear from our booths because they also add to this conversation, and then we want your questions. So let's get started. Barry?
Okay, thank you. This is so great. There's so many awesome vendors here around the sides that obviously understand a lot about what we're going to talk about, and I would like to encourage everybody to get involved when we're done here with the question and answer. So my background is I grew up on a farm in Ohio, and my grandfather had a polycultural farm that was just a wonderland. And when I was 12 in 1987, it started to convert to a corn and soy monoculture. And I watched that land that I loved so much change drastically in a short period of time. And I noticed that the lightning bugs dwindled until they were gone, and the butterflies disappeared, grasshoppers, honeybees gone from this land. So at that point I decided that I knew what I wanted to study and go do with my life, and kind of do all I could to help us connect to the way food should be produced. So I studied environmental science, did what I could in that field, went to culinary school, and I've kind of noticed a lot of the barriers that I think are keeping us from supporting our farmers better. And it's complicated, but I think that one of the main hurdles is it's not really that easy for us to buy from local farms. It's kind of a challenge. There's we have the farmers market, and that's about it. So that's kind of where Agruity.com was born out of, and we'll go more into that later, where you can order direct from a farm online. But I was at the Wednesday farmers market yesterday, and I probably bought more than I should, vegetables and stuff. And because I don't know what Saturday holds. My life is on a day-to-day basis like most of us. And for all I know, I could have 3 lacrosse games with my kids, and I guess I'll figure that out on Saturday morning. But I don't know if I'll be at the market or not. And so it's difficult. So I ordered bacon from 413 Farm already online, so I know I have bacon covered for the weekend. At least that's done. Yeah. So, and then the farmer's market, if you actually get there, you know, where do you park? Do you have a cart with you? Are you going to grab a coffee and just carry what you can in one hand? So if we make it to the market, you know, then, and I might have my kids, and I might not really be grocery shopping. I might just be, you know, grabbing what I can grab. And so it's a challenge to plan you know, you really have to plan it out to support your farmers adequately. The other hurdle is the distribution system is so good, and it's so extensive that just most of the food that we're presented with in our daily lives comes from somewhere far away. And it usually comes from a monoculture. And so most of the food we buy was already sold before it was grown. They're grown under long-term contracts. So one of the biggest hurdles for local family farms is they have no guaranteed sales. When they start to produce, you know, butter or whatever it might be, they don't know who's going to buy that. They don't know who's going to come to the farmer's market. Although one person bought their butter for a whole year, I heard, and hopefully that's what we need. 90 pounds?
99 pounds.
Yeah. Those are the commitments. Like, that's a great thing. So we need to change that paradigm that we support local family farmers in advance and they can count on it. And then, you know, we have these relationships with our farmers, but to know your farmer also means to know how close they are to not coming back next season. And Barbara's going to talk about that more. So we really need to know our farmers in more, like, what are their challenges? Will they be back next spring, or maybe they won't be? And so we need to build better relationships with our farmers. Food service is another major hurdle to support our farmers better. I'm so glad that Chimera has been doing these lunches here. They are a wonderful example of the, and you might not know, but they're tremendous supporters of local farms. And we're going to hear from another one here in a minute. But you know, we know we want to support these people that are doing things the right way, and Chimera and Amelia's are great examples of that. But to move that forward, also, we need to think about how often we eat out, and what we can do to help farmers when we do that. And one thing I always encourage people to do is to ask your servers a simple question, and that is, do you have anything on your menu that supports a local family farm? And it's a simple question, but it's just, the look I get is usually complete bewilderment at that question. Like, say that again? But the more often we ask that question, the more often that server is going to go back and ask that chef, hey, do we have anything that supports a local family farm on our menu? And if you hear that question enough, you're going to want to get a good answer to that question. So that's part of your homework for. And then, you know, I know that, and maybe there are things, and one thing I hear a lot about is, well, I can't afford to eat at certain places. And I definitely understand that. And I am in the same boat, but I guess I just maybe choose to eat out less and support the people like Chimera and Amelia's. The other thing that I could talk for a long time about is the ecological aspects of our choices and about the monocultures. I know last month was the monarch butterflies. And so, the food, the way that we produce grains for our animals to eat is extremely bad for all pollinators, and that goes with the monarchs as well. The corn and soy monoculture is devastating to milkweed, which, I'm sure if you were here last month, you heard a lot about that. So our food choices are very important to that, and we'll circle around and talk more about that later. But I'm going to go introduce one of my favorite farmers, and to talk about the ecological aspect of a grass-fed dairy and grass-fed beef. It is the perfect regenerative practice for Oklahoma. Like, it's really it should be our state protein, right? The dairy especially. I mean, her Greek yogurt is the best thing in the world, and you can buy some over there before you go home. I would encourage you to do that. But one of my favorite farmers, Barbara Crane.
Thank you, and we certainly appreciate the support that we find here in Tulsa and as well as other parts of the state. But my husband and I have been dairy farming since 1991, and we started out in the commodity game where the truck came to our farm every other day and picked up the milk, and so we had a regular paycheck, but we never knew how much it would be, and very often it was not enough to cover the cost of producing the milk. And we began transitioning to grass-fed earlier, so we were producing a higher quality of milk, but it would just get dumped in with everybody else's, and no premiums for what we were producing. After about 10 years, we realized we were getting nowhere in the business, and that we needed to either do something radical or get out. So we worked with the Food and Ag Products Center there at OSU, and then with a company in Israel that was doing miniaturized dairy processing equipment, and we took the plunge to put in the creamery, and that was about 2005. And so that was kind of out of the frying pan into the fire, but it's a move that we've never regretted, but it's been a challenge, because now not only are we doing all the dairy farming chores and responsibilities, we've added to that the processing of the milk, making the yogurt, the butter, the cheese, etc., and the packaging of it, and the labeling of it, and the marketing of it, and the distribution of it. So, and we have help. We've hired part-time help through the years, which have been very good, but nonetheless, the burden falls really on Ron and my shoulders. And our kids have helped through the years, but they keep growing up and moving away, and So that is one of the big challenges in farming, is that you wear so many hats, and it's not just the farming that you love, but you have to do all these other things to support the farm. And in America now, we have, the average age of the farmer is about 60. That's the average age. And very many farms have no succession plan, and so it's going to be very interesting in the next 10 or 15 years to see what happens to a lot of this farmland as farmers die off or retire. A lot of it's going to get gobbled up by bigger and bigger corporate farms and go to the monocultures, which is unfortunate. Our rural communities are dying. The young people often grow up and move away. I asked my daughter, what would you say are the things that make it very difficult for you to want to choose, that you would not want to choose to stay at a farm? She said the hours that you have to work, there's no vacation days, there's no weekends off, the salary is terrible. And so, you know, my kids have looked at that and said, we love what you do, we respect what you do, but it's not for us. And so we came to a point last fall, where we have a balloon payment due this summer because when we went with the creamery, we literally bet the farm. And so we had a balloon payment coming up, and we had no successor, and we thought, at our age, we're right on that border. I'm on the underside of 60, my husband's on the overside of 60, and thought, why would we refinance for 15 years to keep doing what we're doing? So we were looking at selling the farm. Didn't want to do that, but we didn't see any reasonable option. And so as we were making those plans, we had several providential occurrences, which I can only say were providential because we had nothing to do with them, that culminated in a young couple 4 miles away in the little town of Goldtree calling us up right before Christmas and said, we really, really want to become farmers. Is there any way we can sit down with you guys and talk about possibilities? So we said, come on over, let's talk. So we have been working with this young couple now, and the plan now is for them to be our eventual successors. We were able to refinance the balloon payment so that we can stay on. We'll work on training them, and with the eventual plan of them buying us out, and we can keep an acreage if we want to stay on the farm, or we can move wherever our kids have ended up or whatever, but at least at this point now we have somebody young to work with. And it's exciting because they have the same kind of vision that we do for the farm. Ron has worked so hard through the years to improve the soil, we're always drought stricken out there in western Oklahoma, and so he's worked hard to build the swales and the ponds and the fertility so that when it does rain on that farm, we want to keep as much of it on the farm and less of it going down Wagon Creek and off to Great Salt Plains Lake. So we've seen real improvement. We've been in between a stage 3 and 4 drought all winter, and we had pasture for our cattle all winter. All of our wheat farmer neighbors this winter, it was desperate. A lot of them sold their cattle early, they're bringing in hay, trying to keep their cattle alive. Our cows had pasture because of the way that Ron's managed that. So we're doing these things right, and we're doing these things that are good for the environment and great quality food, but it is such a struggle to make ends meet. And so this is what's been a real challenge. We want to be an example to our neighbors out there in Alfalfa County, but if I have trouble paying the electric bill every month, that's not a very good example to my neighbor. And so that's what's been, for me, I think the real challenge is how do you really make it an economically viable operation that is truly sustainable and that can bring on that younger generation that will want to do that. You do have to have a passion for farming. It's not a job for everybody. And we have young people that didn't grow up on a farm that want to farm, but if you don't have a foot in the door, you can't afford to buy your way into a farm. The cost of land is prohibitive. So, we would like to see more of, like I said, our situation was just providential. We didn't plan that, but more opportunities for the older farmers to be training and bringing in the younger ones that want to do it. And then, you're talking about the polyculture with your grandpa's farm. That's what we're aiming for. I went to a permaculture conference a few years ago, and I heard the phrase calories per acre for the first time. And that has fascinated me ever since then. He was talking about what he produced on his farm, and that he was producing more calories per acre than his commodity farmer neighbors across the way. And we, on our 150 acres, we produce the dairy products, we produce the grass-fed beef, we've got eggs, we've got wild sand plums, but we could so easily do the meat birds, the pork, honeybees, fruit trees, on and on and on. But you have to have the labor to do all that. It's all very labor intensive. And then you have to have a buyer for all of that. So that's what I would kind of leave you with, that thought that there's so much potential out there in rural Oklahoma to be producing these wonderful, wonderful foods in a way that honors the animals and improves the soil rather than depletes it, that doesn't poison the streams, but we have to find a way to get those wonderful products to where the people are. So thank you.
My name's Kevin, as she introduced us earlier. Let me just start off by saying this is really awkward. Chefs don't generally get out of the kitchen and do a lot of these kind of things. So my perspective is pretty limited, maybe not really relatable for a lot of you people, but I can speak in behalf of chefs and restaurant operators. So in my early days in my career, the idea of using local ingredients was very foreign. And only up until recently did I see that it was actually even possible. It's just not something that's even really thought of in the whole process of becoming a chef and what you do, unless you work for the right chef. And so hopefully I can be that for some of the new cooks coming in. So here's an idea of maybe how a typical restaurant would base their ordering for their menu. It usually stems from the chef's craving. Maybe he just wants to eat a particular thing, or the restaurant owner is influencing the chef to do that because he or she wants to eat a certain thing, or something's trending. And so they make their orders of the ingredients that they do based on those things, and they make these unreasonable demands on farmers or the distributor, whoever it is they're using. And so they want this food that is a certain size, shape, and color, or whatever it is. Certain vegetables that aren't even grown locally, they want to have that because that's what they're craving, like I said. So it's just it's unreasonable to assume that they could do that. And so if these demands aren't met, then they just drop that provider or that farmer, and then they move on to the next one because as a chef, we're the kings, right? We're always making these demands and barking orders. So there's just no flexibility at all. And so what I've tried to do with our kitchen is to kind of flip it, and we have open discussions with our farmers. Angie has been a great one to work with because, and also you as well, we've been able to communicate about what we want to do with our menu. We go and visit the farm oftentimes, and I'll take my staff with me as well. And we like to do this, like I said, well in advance because we want to have an understanding of what we can expect, and that's what we base our menus around. So once we figure out what those ingredients are, we make recipes written well in advance and tested. If it's a whole animal, we have to think about, for the pig, for instance, that we bring in a pig maybe once a week, sometimes once every other week. So each part of that pig is turned into a different dish for the menu. And oftentimes it's, 20 different things. It just depends on the demand we need for the restaurant at that point in time. So we take that each part, we write a recipe, and then maybe there's a dish. Well, that dish has to have 4 or 5 other recipes. So you can kind of get an idea of the forethought it takes to be sustainable and use these local ingredients, because ultimately we want to respect that product and the farmer. Another thing we can do to move these products is to cook food that we know the customer is going to eat. It's unreasonable to make these wild things that you're not even sure if it's going to taste right or look right and then expect it to sell, because generally you're going to throw a lot of things away and have a lot of waste. So people, when I say things like that, they say, well, where's your creativity if you're just cooking what they want to see? I promise you that the demand of the ingredients and what you're trying to develop out of these different products is immensely creative. It takes more than a lot than one person can handle. That's where the staff comes into play. We like to discuss with our wait staff each individual farm. We tell them about them. Oftentimes they can come and meet them. They're always bringing ingredients in the restaurant, so we like to introduce them and take them, like I said, to the farm. When the wait staff does this, they have a little bit of a personal, emotional attachment to the farm and the ingredients, and so it's easily sold to the table whenever they're that passionate about it. If they're talking about the ingredient, they can get behind it. It just really moves the product a lot better. So if a product doesn't meet our standard, which is going to happen because we're dealing with something that comes from the earth that is not, it's not man-made here, we have to be reasonable with the chefs. We have to say, this is what I'm seeing. Why is it like this? Maybe ask them a question. This is what I'm used to. Is there anything that I need to know about this product, that why it looks like this? They're not chefs, so they don't know what we're looking for oftentimes. And so we tactfully talk to them because ultimately we're trying to build these friendships and relationships with each farmer. So instead of just dropping them like the typical restaurant would do, we'd say, here's the problem, let's approach it, what do we do? Do we need to just change the particular breed? Do we need to change something else? Could be the recipe. So we try to be flexible, and that's where that creativity and the challenge for that comes into play. An idea about that would be the chickens that we buy. Sometimes the chickens are, I call them 3 different sizes. We got the little guys, the regular size, and then you have these monsters that look like turkeys. And I promise they're raised, without all the extras there. But so we have different recipes for each size chicken. So if it's a small one, we might do a half roast chicken on the plate. Regular size chicken, we do what we call our ossobuco or a tikka masala or something that we can break the chicken down into different things. And if it's the big thing, we usually debone the whole thing and do what's called a roulade. So anyway, but the idea is that we have a plan for each size chicken, and we're not being unreasonable about it. And so that is only possible because we reprint our menu daily and according to shift. So if a product comes in that's different or it doesn't meet our standards or whatever, it's as easy as not putting it on the menu. We can just delete that line or that ingredient from in that particular dish and take it off. As long as it doesn't affect the integrity of our food, we feel, or the flavor or something like that, we can change things on a whim like that. And that really is where is crucial. If you want to be a sustainable restaurant using local ingredients, you have to be flexible. And so having these big, elaborate, very expensive menus can be very difficult to do that with because it just doesn't work that way. We like to train our our cook staff to cook with a conscience because when you're doing that, you're going to have a lot less waste. We talked about these ingredients costing a little bit more. We have to deal with that, and oftentimes people come to our restaurant and they think, why is this so expensive or something like that? And the ways we deal with that is training our waitstaff to promote the restaurant, like we said. We put the name of the farm on the particular item. And like I said, the conscious-driven cooks are going to use so much less waste. When they see the farm, they see the animal. We've even had times where we visited a farm, we saw all these pigs, we were petting them, playing around with these pigs, and then the next week, she said that there was one of the ones you were petting right there, and so, but, it's all part of it because now can you imagine not respecting that animal at that point in time and letting any of that go to waste? So that's what we really do to try to eliminate some of the cost problems. Well, one thing I didn't cover before is that when you're dealing with the waitstaff and you're dealing with products that are going to run out, you can only order so much. We just communicate with them on ways to tactfully communicate that something is run out. And so maybe we always have something to back up another dish. So what I'm talking about is when we have a pork dish and we have so many portions that we got off of that particular pig that we bought. Well, so the shoulder is run out. Now we have to back that up with a pork chop dish. And so the idea is that the waitstaff is communicating to the customer, they're not getting some sort of bad end of the stick here. It's just it's the rest of the pig coming at you now. It's the better dish or another dish. So we try to, in the end, it's all about communication, being flexible, and developing relationships with farmers. So in conclusion, I like to create excitement about local foods always, and so I'd encourage you to, like you said, Barry said, always kind of bring it up when you're at the restaurants with the waitstaff. Try to get their conscience working on things. Don't judge your friends for not eating locally, but maybe always keep it positive and show them the benefits because nobody feels guilty and wants to do something else. So, and then support the restaurants that are using the local ingredients.
Okay, so I think I have 3 minutes. I think we've stretched our 5 minutes per person in here. So I'll try and just be brief. I remember Corey's first Sustainable Tulsa meeting when was that? 2003, Corey? And we had Earl Hatley, all right? And he is a river keeper for Grand Lake. And one of the key things that he was able to do was his originally allotted Indian land had been overgrazed because of what Barry started off with, and Barbara also talked about, was the management practices. And he was able to reclaim his land and allowed it to turn back to its natural state. And it took a process of from 5 to 10 years. And all of a sudden, the wildflowers and the diversity all returned back. The lightning bugs, the butterflies, everything had come back to his land. So basically, if you take care of your land, the land will take care of you. And I think that that's a real key thing here, since this is Sustainable Tulsa, is to think about the practices that whenever you're purchasing this food at Whole Foods or Sprouts or at the grocery store, they are still purchasing from large agricultural industries. And I asked Earl, I said, what do you see as a way that we can all get back to eating and living correctly and having a sustainable world? And he said, we need to decentralize the big agriculture industry and go back to supporting the small farms. That is the best way that you can use your dollars, vote with your fork here, and to be able to help heal our community. So with that being said, I think we also need to take a look at how can we support it. And so one of the easiest ways that I know how is that I also, for Local Food Week, the whole reason why we created Local Food Week in 2009, the governor of Oklahoma and the mayor then in 2009 did a proclamation designating the week before Father's Day as Local Food Week. And the whole goal is to raise awareness because a lot of people don't even know that there is a farmer's market. And with that being said, too, I'm going to slip this in. Our Wednesday farmer's market in Brookside has moved from the parking lot of Whole Foods, and it is now on Peoria, across the street from QT, in the parking lot of the Baptist Church there at 35th Street in Peoria. And that is 8:30 to 11:30 on Wednesdays. So we have a new location, and that is also in the food guide. And so one of the ways is to make it easier to connect the shoppers with the food that is being produced. And inside it is also all the farmers that come into Tulsa County and sell their product. So Local Food Week is here, and I appreciate being invited, but I also want to ask you too, one of the things that we have that's coming up is how many of you all are aware that Tulsa has orange barrels? Construction, right? Everywhere. And I don't know how many of you all have traveled down 21st around Utica. Has it been like a month? Under construction for over a year. It has been construction everywhere. Well, guess what? 15th Street, Cherry Street is designated to go under construction too. And so the utility lines will also be the first part of it. And so we're all kind of wondering, where would we move to do our farmers market? We thought we would just go into on 16th Street there at the church. But they said that utility construction is going there as well. So I'm hoping that we can take this opportunity to brainstorm with you. Where would you like to see it be moved to temporarily? Because we've had some ideas, but you know what? In our surveys, we've been said that not everyone would come downtown. They seem to think that it's too confusing, that there's not enough parking, and so the downtown, even though we have really been wooed and would love to have another farmer's market. It used to be one at 3rd and Boston, which was on Tuesdays, but it is no longer here because there wasn't enough support for it. So I would like to open up the discussion, if we could, and maybe get your ideas and suggestions on where you would like it. Yes?
Over in Centennial Park, they did in the Pearl District have a farmer's market for a while. I think it's up to the same fate as the one here in town, but it's not very far from Cherry Street, so a lot of the people that shop there might be able to get up there as well.
And I know that a lot of people love to pull into that park. By the way, I started that Pearl Farmers Market. And it's all about timing. And you know what? When we started that, none of the development on 6th Street was there. So isn't that interesting how now it's just full of wonderful yoga studios and restaurants and coffee shops, but we were ahead of our time on putting it there. So, but thank you for that suggestion. And that is one of the suggestions that has come forward to us too. So I would love to be able to hear you brainstorm about that as well.
Let's give Rita a round of applause. We're just going to pass the mic quickly to hear just briefly about the booths that are around, and then those that can stick around will do a few questions. So go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jeff Thompson. I'm the general manager of the Mother Road Market. I'm here with Paige, who's our intern for the summer. And we are opening Tulsa's first food hall. It's going to be predominantly entrepreneurial, brand new startups. We're going to have some more established Tulsa businesses there as well, like Andolini's. We just announced Oklahoma Joe's today. Those are really the two big brands. Almost everybody else that's in that space is a small startup entrepreneurial enterprise. We're at project of the Lobeck Taylor Family Foundation, who also started Kitchen 66, and the Mother Road Market will also be the home of Kitchen 66. And so just a great space. We have a general store in there, and we've allocated half of the space of that general store to be a 7 days a week, open all hours, mini farmers market. And I know a lot of the farmers in the area are aware of that. We've talked to a lot of the farmers about making sure that they have their products in there. We'll be announcing who's going to be our partner in that location to help us really curate the best mix of local foods. Idea is eggs, produce, dairy, meat, all locally raised, all available all the time. So hopefully this will also help minimize some of the overhead that the farmers have to bear, spending 2 hours or more to get to the farmer's market for maybe 2 hours worth of business, and then folding up their tents and driving 2 hours back home. So hopefully it's a pathway for more regular, predictable presence and more people that are in Tulsa that are getting a chance to be exposed to your products. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I am Marguerite Arthrell-Kanizik, and I run Under the Canopy. It's a Nature Explorers program. It's an after-school program for elementary-age children, as well as I run some summer camps. The summer camp that's coming up next week is our farm-to-table camp. We're actually going to be going out to Three Springs Farm and harvesting vegetables from them and working on their farm a little bit, and then bringing it back to Under the Canopy and creating recipes with all those good, fresh, local ingredients. I also run the Coyote Backyard Nature Camp, which is all about exploring the nature that surrounds us daily. That's what the focus of my after-school program is. We meet outside no matter what the weather, unless it's like dangerous. And so far, we've been good, even in Oklahoma, where it gets a little crazy with the weather. So if you want to learn more, you can check out my website. It's underthecanopy.org. I'm always open to collaboration with different amazing things that are going on around Tulsa in different ages. I just started off where I knew how to work with elementary age children, but I'm open to other things. And I also do some adult nature workshops. It's just similar stuff with the kids of just actually figuring out about learning about all the really interesting and cool things happening outside. All right, thank you.
name is Angie. I'm the farmer at 413 Farm, and I moved from Texas to Tulsa to farm. I'm a mother of 7 kids, and I started with a farmer's market model, which isn't ideal, as we've kind of talked about today, but my first winter season was really slow, and so I didn't realize that, so I learned it, and I kind of took my inventory and went to the different chefs around town, which Chimera was my very first customer. So, and they came out, they brought their team out, they've been to the farm, and he has been one of my strongest supporters. Farmers aren't known to be salesmen, so I was really pushing myself out of the box. I'd never sold anything ever. Then I knocked on Kevin's door. He was under construction, took him a chicken and asked him to try it. And as you can tell, he has been one of my biggest advocates. He's very active on social media, really encouraging the city to purchase local supporter farms. He brought his team out and moved 400 bales of hay in 30 minutes. And he really makes his team know where food is coming from. I'm transitioning away from the farmer's market model, and I'm more looking at a retail space somewhere in Tulsa where we can have a presence every day, and we can serve your needs every day. I don't know where that will be, so I'm also looking at all of our options, but we wake up every day to feed you. Every day we wake up to tend to our animals, to feed you, to feed your children. So many of my farm friends, we do it on pasture with the highest quality grain. We buy it right there in Grand Lake, and we just hope you'll give us a chance. You can buy from, there's so many ranchers and growers here in town. You really have the highest quality at your fingertips. There's so many websites you can use. You can buy direct on my website, 413 Farm. You can buy direct from a Grody. There's countless farms there. And I'm an activist among farmers. I'm like the farmer's farmer. And I was really disappointed when I learned in February that Whole Foods' Step 5 pasture-raised chicken is still grown inside of a barn. I know a farmer who is certified. He pays tens of thousands of dollars to get that certification, and it's still inside of a barn. Marketing is war. We don't have big bucks to back us, but we've got voices like these chefs and Barry Jarvis and Rita to try to share our message with you guys here in the city. So just reach out. We're doing our best.
I was really excited to see that this meeting was happening today with these voices up here, so thank you guys very much for doing that. And at Chimera, we just hope we can continue to be, a source for people to come and find the products that these farmers and growers are producing. And I just, over the past 5 years, we've seen a huge increase in interest in people actually having a conscience about what they're consuming, and I just hope it continues. And I'm really excited for Tulsa and what the future holds for us. So thank you.
Rob has been so fabulous to work with for our lunches, so we definitely wanted to work with someone that's doing their best to bring local foods to his menu. So anyway, just a big shout out to you, Rob. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Mccullough, and I'm on the board of the Carrie Dickerson Foundation. The reason I'm saying anything at all is historical. Carrie stopped PSO from building the Black Fox nuclear plant. And this was in the 70s and was, canceled in the early 80s. So why? Because if we had a nuclear plant at Inola, our soil wouldn't be clean, our water wouldn't be clean, our air wouldn't be clean. So your food would not be the good, high-quality, clean food that we're luckily able to have in Oklahoma because we don't have a nuclear plant. Thank you, Carrie. We are still working to promote clean food, clean air, clean water as a basic human right for everybody, and to get kids back in nature too.
Hey, I'm Nathan Picard with Restoration Collective, and my wife and I were reading our devotions this morning and came across a quote that I thought would be cool. Humankind did not weave the web of life. We are but one strand within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves, and that's Chief Seattle. And so I thought it just fit really well with what's being said. And so that's what we're trying to do, is kind of create that web of life again, just north of downtown, or kind of concentrating on a very specific area. And yeah, starting with like the smallest parasitic wasps, going all the way up through the food chain. And so it's pretty exciting. You can get on the email list, and we'll have a tour of some of the sites that we have. We have a nursery, we have a 2/3 acre food forest, we've got the Tisdale Food Forest, and now the Emerson 20-acre spot that we've been designing and implementing this summer. So you'll be the first to get to see that. It includes a farm, it includes a native prairie and native forest that mimics what was here in the early 1800s before the white man came. And so I hope you can come. Just sign up here on the email list, and that's June 23rd, Saturday at 5 p.m. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. My name is Taryn DeWitt, and I work for Frontier Produce. We are a statewide wholesale food distributor. We recently started a program that we've called our wellness program, where we are buying tons of local stuff, and we have creative ways to be able to sell it. We have drop-off sites across the state. We have corporate wellness programs. We do mini farmers markets. And the point of it is we recognize that as a distributor, if we aren't doing a good job at supporting our local farmers, then the farmers they don't have an easy way to sell their products, and the restaurants who do want to buy local aren't able to do so. So by creating these relationships with these farmers now through these flexible programs, we hope that when grocery stores and when restaurants give us a call and say, we want this local item, we already have those relationships built, and it's easy for them to do that. So, Taryn with Frontier Produce, thank you.
Hello, I'm Katie Plohaki with the Healthy Community Store Initiative. Our vision is to change the way Tulsa eats by providing equitable access to food for everyone by integrating several programs along the supply chain doing so. A lot of you know about us as R&G Family Grocers, a mobile grocery store that goes around to 19 locations across Tulsa every single week. We also have a lot of other programming, including our own farm that we started in North Tulsa. We do activities and STEM through ag programs for kids on the farm as well. We have a Hands to Harvest program where we actually go out and glean and then recover food waste, whether it be for a person, for our livestock, or for composting. We're going to be actually designing a compost demonstration site on our farm as our next little education activity for folks. We are working on convenience store conversion programs where we're setting up farmers market stands inside existing convenience stores. We've launched a new senior market where we put in a small market inside a senior living facility at Tulsa Pythian Manor, where the residents get to volunteer and run the store themselves, and we get to provide that produce. And I don't even know what else we were doing. Oh yeah, and Cooking for Health. If you're interested, one of the things, we are a nonprofit that makes us sustainable is we have a commercial kitchen, and we do healthy, a lot of plant-based catering, locally sourced, that really funds the rest of our programming. Without doing these caterings and using that, I wouldn't be able to pay my staff, and they like to get paid. So if you have events, please come get a brochure and think about getting some great food as well as supporting a nonprofit by doing so. Thanks.
Thank you. So we have some amazing people here, as you can tell, and there's more that haven't even shared what they're working on. I know we've gone over, so I would like to allow for a few questions, and we know that if you have to leave because the time, but we have this amazing panel here, and I want to give a chance for some questions. So we'll take a couple questions, and then we'll end here in just a few minutes. So if there's anybody that has a question that you'd like to ask the panelists, raise your hand. We'd love to have your voice in the conversation.
Hi, I'm Brendan. Thinking about sort of people leaving the countryside, like the younger generation leaving. And I grew up in the country, and on both sides of my family, my grandparents also were farmers. My parents grew up on a farm. And I was sort of thinking about people leaving the rural area to be in an urban place. And in general, urban living has lower climate impacts on it. So I'm sort of mulling over sort of the idea about rooftop gardens. And that's a big kind of pie in the sky idea, but do you have any thoughts about how that might be a model for allowing people who want to be farmers to also, you know, live in places where there's a more vibrant community, just because like a lot of our rural communities, there's just not a whole lot going on. And I remember being out there, there wasn't a lot to do. So yeah, I kind of want to go to the city, but maybe have the best of both worlds.
I'll take that question. When this particular building was designed, it actually has a rooftop garden on it. And I have to say, our incredible, intense heat, it was really hard to, and they put succulents in the garden, which are one of, you know, almost like cactus, and it still struggled. And I would love to be able to see someone take that on and rework it, but therein lies the problem. Now maybe we should provide solar panels to create a shade up there too, you know. But it's the intense heat. It's our climate that has been drastically changing.
Yeah, I'm just speaking to the rooftop garden. ECHO, ECHO, down in Florida has been doing, I live and teach in West Africa, and we've been doing that in urban West African cities, and ECHO has got some great plans, and they've been at it very successfully with a whole lot less infrastructure than we have in Tulsa. So get in touch with them. Yeah, it's ECHO, ECHO. I'll talk to you afterwards, but it's, they're in, near, it's whatever the city is that's on the other side of Sanibel Island in Florida. They're great. I mean, and they've been at this forever.
One last question, just because we've gone so over time. Is there anybody? Sorry.
So have you all found that there's been a increase? I've got one question, one comment, but the question is, have you found an increase in demand for local food in your respective venues that you guys have you seen that demand? And then does anybody have an estimate about how much local food is represented in the local food in the food chain here locally, as far as how much is purchased?
I have seen the demand increase at the rate of like a glacier moves. It's just not enough. We need to move the demand much further and faster. I think there's more demand. There's definitely more demand for. There's definitely a growing number of people that are going to be very receptive to what Kevin's doing and what Rob's doing. But overall, it's just such a small sliver, like you said. It's just a tiny piece of our calories we consume.
Well, and if I could add to that, one thing I have noticed, we started Cherry Street Farmers Market 13 seasons ago, and at that time, a lot of the customers were middle-aged women. And that I have seen change over time. We have a lot of younger people involved, actually all ages, but we see a lot more families with children than we used to see when I first started 13 years ago. So that has been encouraging. But yeah, we're such a small percentage of what people actually purchase.
My Union Public Schools are national leaders in purchasing, and they purchase over $500,000, which, given their entire budget, that doesn't sound like a lot, but at least that's more than other schools are doing, and that is a place that I could see growth, and it just takes, parents showing up They have procurement policies that all they need to do is amend it saying local foods as first choice. And I'm seeing an increase there. But also we need more growers, you know, because Tulsa Public Schools, which is a lot larger, serves over 40,000 lunches per day. Imagine if you're a blueberry operation, you know, and you're serving half cups, 40,000 meals a day. That's going to wipe it out. But it also shows you that there are opportunities for growers.
I think that probably Chimera is probably seeing a lot more of the people coming in and saying, you know, where is the sustainable food? I want to, you know, this is what I want. Compared to Amelia's, we probably have less conscious-driven customers coming in there. Although I will say that there is occasionally people that are talking about it, but what I do hear, because I'm in the kitchen, you know, I'm not really hearing what the people are saying so much, but I do hear, because we have a countertop that comes up to the kitchen, and I can hear some people talking there. There is excitement about when they see the name of the farm on the menu. They think that that is really neat that we're supporting that particular farm, and maybe they've seen it at other menus around town now, and so there is excitement growing, I'd say.
Well, you guys have been generous to stay over. This is the longest we've gone with the first Thursday. Let's give our panelists a round of applause. I think several can stick around. Hopefully our booth vendors can stick around for just a little bit so you can visit it. But we do have a couple gifts to give away, and what are those?
Oh, okay. We have two awesome, well, we have an Agruity t-shirt to give away, but that is not even near what the other prizes are. We have two $25 bundles of Barbara's awesome stuff, which will be yogurt, granola, and
Cheese and granola bars.
Cheese and granola bars. All of it is A+, gets my highest rating possible.
Okay. Joel, who are the...
Barbara James with KW Advantage.
All right. Okay.
My daughter's got it back there.
Cara Joy McKee.
All right.
Kara! She will be appreciative.
The T-shirt goes to...
Kara,
And Full Sun Composting.
All right.
oh, she...